Okay, so this is question 16. um, Sorry, let me just go back here. So question 16 on Maddie Ronson. Let's just work through it. I mean, this is more an overview, but I will just quickly, briefly hit on the key points. We have a scenario here where we have a business that operates in a large city, has 40 staff. So what I've done is that I've put in yellow um, because I know it's about controls. So as you're working through, you're highlighting straight away what you think is good in terms of about the controls and what isn't. So I've put in yellow what I believe is good, and then in blue what isn't, if you like, where I think there are deficiencies. So there's a question that comes back to it. So I'll just come back and look at that later. So in yellow, the company is run by an owner, clear strategy. Each cafe has a cafe manager, so she's not just you have Maddie, and she has, if you like, an organizational structure. And if you remember that we discussed organizational structure, hierarchy as an important control activity, having clear hierarchy is important. Um, it might not always be in the answers, but it is an answer, a valid answer. Okay. You're currently reviewing payroll and revenue. It's a small company. They don't consider it necessary to issue a contract of employment. That is a problem. Um, each new starter is told verbally what their work hours are. That is a problem. Rate of pay will be along, and rate of pay, that is a problem. And other key terms, that is a problem. So big problems there, right? Deficiencies. So you're just literally taking that out and highlighting what the consequences are of those. I actually thought this was a yellow, the fact that you have a system or a clock card, you have a way of recognizing things. Because you see, the clock card machines will literally, it's technically electronic, as opposed to it being written down, is where I'm going here. So it's a clear clock card that goes into a machine. So that's a good thing. I also thought, well, it is in the quiet corner. I mean, there are better answers than this, but it's in the quiet corner, so it's impossible for someone to fiddle with it. Well, when I say in terms of customers breaking it or knocking it down or something along those lines. It's not a distraction, I felt, was a good point to it. This is not supervised, big point. So these are stronger ones. Contains one or two more spare cards, big point, not good. Everything in blue isn't good. They're entitled to sit and have a drink. I mean, what are you paying for? So this is not a good system at all. I felt that she could have done this much more regularly. I mean, of course, I say it regularly. I work. I was going to say I trained. I worked in McDonald's when I was doing my A levels, and we had a very similar system of clock cards. And at the end of every day, in fact, as soon as someone had finished their shift and clocked out, several times during the day, the manager would, at several points in the day, go around and get all the clock cards to, if you like, record those hours to make sure there weren't any differences and just any issues or errors. So record them ready for them to be processed. So it's not about leaving them there for the end of till the whole week. So I felt that was an issue. And then she collects right around in each cafe. So she has to go around to 3 cafes and do this. So I think that's where the felt there was a problem. Then she posts them. I mean, the messages get lost in the post. So why not process them and send them electronically to the payroll service? And that I felt was an issue. They leave money in a dish by the register, potential theft because people are standing there to pay, so someone could pick something. Divides the amounts by and gives them their share in cash. By the way, from a tax point of view, this is taxable income, um, gratuity. So there is no. It's just that it probably isn't taxed as much, but it is cash payments are good. So records should be kept of this. We don't know what those tips are. I felt this was more an internal issue. I just felt that you weren't sharing it equally. And he says that you're dividing it by the total hours, and you might have internal issues there in terms of maybe people feeling that if they're working harder, they should pay more if they do the bigger tables. Right. So this I felt. So in yellow, I have the good things. Right. I should change my pen color to yellow as well, shouldn't I? So I thought this was good. Right. And these were all good, pre-programmed, price of each, very clearly attracting sales tax or not. I thought that was a good control. Only adjusted by Maddie, great control. End of each day, you get totals split between card and cash, so we can carry out some further analysis. By cafe and payment. So excellent. We need that when assessing, if you like, the for significant fluctuation with revenue. Daily basis, we have reconciliation of those reports. So these are all very good It points. Usually you have a cafe manager and one other person. CCTV camera positioned above the cash register, I thought was also good. Right. So that's the good introduction there. Right. So let's go. So this first question was about explaining the control objectives, activity, and test of control. So hopefully you had a pop at that. You can see that there's 6 marks here. So you're thinking two, two, two. I actually quite like that yellow um, feel there. Two, two, two. So you're thinking like that. The control objectives, what have I written here? Think of control objective as what is the point of the system in the first place? What's the point of this system? What are we trying to do here? So your control objectives always look like to ensure. The whole idea of having this system in place, I'll go as far as calling that, is to sort of think think of the chaos that you would have if you had people working with for you and you had no way of actually recording the hours they'd worked. Think of not having a system that recorded what they should be paid at. Just think of that degree of chaos. Think of people joining, leaving. So think of that. So really, what is your organization trying to prevent or to mitigate or to ensure? I've only just picked a couple. Please review the answers, of course. They only wanted one, I believe, an example. So you need a system that ensures that only people who work for you are paid, or only people who have worked for you for that period are paid for the period they worked for you. So the correct hours, if you like, and that they are paid at the correct amount. I mean, that's what systems are designed to do. Whether so you improve a system to better make sure that you're protecting the assets of the organization. Whenever I've said it several times, I keep saying it. Whenever you see the word "give us some controls" or control activity, they're talking about, if you like, soap maps. Remember that soap control activity comes out of crime, and the C is control activity. And under control activity, you have soap maps, segregation of duty, um, supervision, where is it? Supervision, having the right personnel, the trained personnel, monitoring, authorizations and approvals, having an organizational structure, right? Accuracy. So all of that works. So in terms of control activities, authorizations, just making sure things are authorized. So classic, I felt what jumped out at me was overtime. The other thing I thought was for segregation of duty was this business of separate HR and payroll functions. And then supervision. There needs to be some kind of supervision over the clocking in. I thought these were some of the big ones, but just these are just snippets to give you a good example, good idea of when we talk about activity. We're talking about soap maps, you're thinking segregation of view. So you're thinking to yourself, where can I apply supervision? Where can I apply authorization? And I suppose the test of the control, which again is AEIOU, is really centered around analytical procedures, well, not really so much, I suppose, for controls. For controls, we're looking at observation, we're looking at inspection. So you're looking as to whether or not these controls are working, right? So inspection and observation, I think, as some of you are. When I say inspection, inspection of, yeah, if not inspection of documents and observation of processes. You're inspecting authorizations, you're inspecting signatures, you're observing monitoring, you're observing whether or not what you're inspecting CCTV camera to see if it's working, right? I think those are the for controls. These are the two main, I would argue, the two main controls: inspection and observation. Um, so here I've picked a few. You're inspecting the signature. That's what you're looking at. Remember, it's control. When it's not a substantive test, it's a controls test, isn't it? Um, Inspecting HR procedure manuals. That's what I thought. Well, just inspecting this. You can also inspect the segregation of duty, inspecting the fact that one person is not the same person doing things, doing the uploading of data, signing off payroll, paying the people. You can inspect the payments of these. You can inspect that the um, pay slips have been recalculated. Um, I've written here, observe the clocking in and clocking out process to ensure it's supervised. You're just observing or testing and looking at to see is the control working, right? Then they asked here about 5 deficiencies. We've done that. So you're looking at those deficiencies and coming up with recommendations. So whatever it is you're picking up on, yes, whatever it is you're picking on, so everything in blue, um, this question of posts, whatever you feel. I would actually think, well, no, what you want to do is you want to send this electronically in a secure email to the right party, if you like, to make sure it gets there. So that's your recommendation. So you're literally picking out these things in blue that I've picked up. This, the clocking in is not supervised. That's the deficiency. So you're picking that out and you're recommending that it's supervised or have a camera there, if you like, to make sure. Um, don't have one or two spare cards. Simple. Just do not have. If someone doesn't have their card, if their card's not there, they need to come to you to ensure. And so we need events, or we need a test of that to see if you have scenarios like that. Um, so that's what they're really talking about there. Looking at those issues here. Um, and you're inspecting the test of control is to ensure that, okay, how have you now solved the problem? What system have you put in place to make sure that these records are retained, right? So that's what you are saying. And then the next part of that question really flicks onto the other side, which says to you, now, when it says what four controls can we place reliance on, it's saying what's good about this business, right? And a lot of that was all the things we had in yellow, right? What we had in yellow was good about the business. The fact that you have these analysis and they are producing a total of sales split between both amounts. Um, that they pay. I think there's the fact that only is pre-programmed. These are all positives. These are all positives. Um, Finally, the question says some substantive procedures to assess revenue. So you're thinking AEIOU, right? And I don't know if I wrote it down. I thought I did. Um, so we're thinking AEIOU. That's the first thing. So the question is, we're going to carry out some procedures. Now, the question is, what are you testing these procedures on? And I've tried to break it down this way. The first thing we're doing with a lot of these things is always analysis. Analysis helps you helps you sort of focus a bit more on fluctuations. Where are you going to be looking at? So compare revenue year to year. Along cash and credit. So the reason you're looking at revenue, I said in class the other day, is to look for volume change. So volume change highlights overtrading, possibly highlights cutoff issues. Right? There's nothing wrong with selling more. The question here is, are you selling? Have you suddenly had to let your receivable days go from 20 days to 80 days? That's the issue. And therefore, so that's why we're looking at revenue as it is. But we're also looking at GP margins because we're looking to see whether or not this revenue has probably gone up because of price changes, maybe, possibly, or falling costs. So that informs your understanding. That informs your understanding of what's going on, if you like. That helps you sort of see what's happening. So I've written, think it along individual cafes. So against along key products, as opposed to just saying just do a calculation. So the next assertion is occurrence. You're trying to see, did this thing actually happen, if you like. To a certain extent, remember that occurrence is the fancy form of existence. So occurrence, we trust the client and say, look, let's look at your records in the accounts. Let's look at the revenue account and let's trace this back to the cash register, right? Let's trace this back to the cash register. So we are, or to wait, well, to whatever's recorded it. I would have just stopped at cash register, but that's fine. And it says then through to the cash banked. Okay, again, just so we are going from, if you like, sheet to floor, so to speak. We trust it. We were just testing occurrence. Did it happen? But these are all. What they've done here is, I suppose, this is a bit more unique to a cash business. This could have been in a normal credit business where they do a lot of their tracing, their work on credit. So again, you're looking at the sales ledger in those scenarios I'm teaching, I suppose. Sales ledger to the goods dispatch note and the sales order. That's really the point here. And then, of course, to bank. But the point here is we're going through occurrence, and you do that. And I think that's a way of structuring this in your mind, as opposed to cramming a series of points for the sake of it. So you're clear. What's the assertion I'm looking at? Cutoff. Again, cutoff is sort of assessing whether or not we have only the revenue for the period between January and December, nothing more, nothing less. So we're really assessing events happening around the year end, right? To make sure that we don't have stuff post year end in our year. That's really the point, right? We only want to make sure we have revenue in our year, um, if you like. So we are looking again here. Again, just like with the client, we look at just like with um, credit businesses, we look at goods dispatch notes. We are looking, if you like, at the cash register to ensure that that data is recorded in the right period. Right? That's the important thing, because that's when you actually receive the money. That's when the sale itself actually happens through the cash register. You can make anything up on a system, but it's the cash register that we're looking for. Completeness. Now, completeness again is when we're looking, is the opposite of occurrence. Occurrence, we look at the data, and I repeat this all the time. We look at the revenue statement to the floor. Here we go onto the floor and we say, let's look at all the cash register totals, everything that feeds into your system, and ensure that everything that feeds into your system, cash registers, cash slips, are on the system. So it is actually typical, more likely this will be there because people are typically trying to overstate revenue. So we still do that for completeness. Right? So you can see we're going external and putting that to the actual accounts. Accuracy. So what I've done here is literally taken a couple of those records and added them together for certain months or for certain products, um, and then agree that to the revenue figure, if you like, in the financial statements for accuracy. So I'm looking externally again, looking at those additions and agreeing that to the financial statements, or to the revenue account accuracy. Right, and those are ones I think that jump out. So accuracy, occurrence, cutoff, completeness, and then that should guide the way you go about trying to assess what's happening. Okay, great stuff. Hopefully that's helped with question 16.